Hello. Okay, last Monday I attended a secret showing at one of my local cinemas. We didn't know what it was, didn't know what the film would be until it started, really. And there were a couple of rumours. I was hoping it would be Talk to Me because it releases this weekend, and I was very intrigued by the trailers. I kind of liked the vibe that I was getting when I was watching the trailers. It had it had a certain sort of Jordan Peele vibe to them. So luckily it was Talk to Me, so we got to see it a few days early. One way in which I can describe sort of how this movie felt was it's very Jordan Peele with perhaps a dash of Babadook. So Talk to Me is a supernatural horror film directed by Michael and Danny Philippou in their feature film directorial debut. It follows a group of friends who discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, becoming hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. What I really liked about this movie, there's a lot actually that I liked about this film, but sort of one of the main aspects that I really liked was how they took a familiar somewhat premise, with it being possession, and just really did something very different with it. And, this easily could have been heavy-handed and just silly and stupid, but the way in which the movie is directed and just sort of the way in which, through the performances and just how the story is told, you buy into it. It could have easily have just been very silly, but I just feel like the way in which this material was handled, it was a very well-made horror movie. And I just really liked how they took that familiar sort of premise of possession and just did something incredibly different with it, as well as having this really deep emotional core right at the center of this movie that took me by surprise. And this movie is heavy, it's intense, it's a very tense ride, you're constantly at the edge of your seat, it's nerve-wracking, and that's just the way in which the film sort of escalates and how it slowly builds up with this momentum and this energy. And the horror and that deep emotional core within this movie is elevated by the very solid direction by the two directors, as well as the very real, natural performances from all of the cast. The performances in this movie are incredible. I believed in every character. I ended up rooting and liking every character. I was able to emotionally connect to them. Just the way these characters were written and just brought to life just felt very real and natural. There's this one particular moment where you're sort of, you're still sort of getting to know the family, and the mother is going into these rooms just checking with the kids to make sure that they're not going to throw a party while she's gone. And that is a moment that I think a lot of us can kind of relate to. And so it was sort of filled with a lot of these moments, and just the way in which these characters were written allowed the film to have a certain sort of amount of this groundedness to it, which allows you to buy into what is about to happen. So along with the performances and the direction is the very smart writing, because it's that writing that just really allows you as well to buy into what happens throughout this movie. I was instantly drawn into this movie by the very real and natural performance by Sophie Wilde, who plays one of our lead characters, Mia. She is absolutely incredible in this movie. She really manages to convey the vulnerability and the pain that her character is going through, and I couldn't help but emotionally connect to this character, and her character just really resonated with me, and a lot of it is down to the way in which she brought the character to life. She is someone to look out for, because she was incredible in this movie, and she helps sell the horror and sort of the situation that these characters are going through. Again, going back to, this film could have easily have just been very silly if it was handled in the wrong way, and it's down to not just her performance, but the performance from the entire cast. But her performance, Sophie Wilde's performance especially, was the standout for me, because it felt so raw and real. You just really you could see the pain that this character was going through, and you bought into this character. And along with that, you know, this movie does handle some really sensitive themes, suicide being one, and I just think the way, again, in which they handle this was very clever, and it wasn't heavy-handed. And this is where I'm getting those Babadook vibes. So for me, this entire experience was clearly inspired by Jordan Peele and movies like Babadook, because it was a blend of both, but at the same time still had this sort of distinct style to it. It didn't feel like they were just ripping off Jordan Peele. It still had this distinct style to it that felt different and fresh. Talk to Me was beautifully directed by these brothers with some really nice cinematography, and I just liked the way in which the film was shot and edited. There are some really brutal moments within this movie that is helped by the way in which it's shot and edited, and it's very rare that I've got to turn away from the screen. But there are moments in this movie that, just because of the way in which they were shot and edited and how they looked, and sort of, again, the use of practical effects, it made me turn. There were moments in which I could not watch because of how brutal these moments were. And that, again, is what horror should do. And that's when I knew that when these moments happened, you know, at the same time, you actually really, really cared what was happening to these characters. This is one certain character. It's one of the younger brothers. And I don't want to say too much because I want to keep this spoiler free. But there is stuff that happens within this movie that is heartbreaking. And again, it's just down to the way in which the characters are written, how they are sort of brought to life by the actors. But yeah, there are these moments of horror within this film are just incredibly staged. They are beautifully staged and just well executed. Talk to Me was a thrilling, nerve-wracking, tension-filled experience, and I enjoyed every moment of it. It's heavy. It's quite emotional, and you will come away, like I came out of the movie, sort of my first reaction from coming out of this movie was, whew, that was intense. And like literally that's how I felt. It was like a big sort of gasp for air. It's a very tense ride, and it's what horror should be, and that's why I really, really like this film. Talk to Me is one of my favourite horror movies of the year so far, along with Pearl. So yeah, I highly recommend this film when it comes out this weekend. Please check it out. It's a very, very well made, it's a very well crafted horror film that does what a horror film should do, as well as trying something different and doing something new with the premise that it's, and sort of the themes that it's dealing with. So yes, I will be giving Talk to Me an 8.5 out of 10. So there are my thoughts on Talk to Me. Highly recommend it. Please check it out when it's released here in the UK this weekend. And yeah, once you've seen it, let me know. Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews and just general movie talk from a geek in Wales, you know, just ramble on, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I'm hoping to hit 200 subscribers by the end of the year. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.